In my article on the 2024 World Gastronomy and Tourism Trends, specifically in the sections that focus on gastronomy and the concept of gastro-nationalism, as there are a wide variety of different topics discussed in this article, as I have previously mentioned, a gastro-nationalism movement has now emerged and is being recognized as an important new culinary trend in countries all across the world. For nearly a century, there have been many related brands that have been attempted to be implemented as projects worldwide, involving assimilation, social engineering, and promotions in both print and visual media. The dominance of the Spanish and French schools is not long for this world. It is destined to disappear completely in the very near future. One of the titles that will likely dethrone many of the world's most popular cuisines, including the famous French cuisine, as I mentioned earlier, are actually terms from the historic Seljuk culinary culture, such as helvager, sirke-i furushe, or helras. In the Seljuk era, those who made keşkek were called helras. I believe terms like buryangir and sakka will also re-emerge in Turkish culinary culture in the not-too-distant future. For instance, as Has Aşçıbaşı Ahmet Özdemir, I previously mentioned that I began using this title because Has aligns with my own culinary culture. In other words, it's a title given to those who perform their craft best in our history, and I cited the example of Ustudan-i Matba-i Has from our culinary culture. With examples like Has Garden, Has Gold, and Has Silver, I wanted to emphasize that it means the best, and by Has Garden, I meant that which belongs to the Sultan. Now, as a head chef, as a cook, who is deeply rooted in Turkish culinary culture, why exactly should I use titles like executive cook, executive chef, or chef de cuisine? Or, if I am a helvager, why should I refer to myself as a patisserie chef or even as an executive patisserie chef? Oh, I can almost hear you saying, but it's international or global. But I want to ask you, if a person doesn't know who they are, then who else is going to know them? If we don't know ourselves, who will? If we don't keep our identity alive, who will keep us alive? If we don't prioritize our culinary culture, our very own cuisine, then who is going to recognize our culinary culture? First, you must know yourself. Once you know yourself, you will truly showcase and keep yourself and your culture alive. And then you will try to introduce this to other cultures as well. After that, once you've learned how to make your own flatbread, pancakes, and noodles, then please go ahead and try to learn how to make crepes, chili con carne, or other similar dishes. But first, you must know yourselves. Only then should you try to learn the culinary cultures of others. There's no end to learning, but I must say, frankly, when you learn too much, you will also be quite saddened, because you start to see incompetence or you notice people's mistakes much more clearly during a conversation, and this ultimately leads to you feeling personally saddened by it. While you may have the right to criticize some, you don't have the right to criticize others. I want to emphasize that this is, unfortunately, one of the pains, sorrows, and troubles that knowledge brings to a person. Turkish culinary culture, where vegetables were used even in the 13th century during the era of Ertuğrul Gazi, has now elevated its presence and global status to much higher levels. Along with authentic cooking techniques, dishes belonging to Turkish culinary culture have now entered the rankings as Turkish food and Turkish flavors in various global categories, competitions, and in the research conducted by culinary evaluation and gastronomic organizations. And in fact, many of our dishes have actually even officially standardized their places as the first, the second, and the third, currently, right now. It is a fact that our culinary culture, which is just coming to light, and the lost flavors of Anatolia will achieve a very important status in the world today and in the future, just as Turkish culinary culture did in history. This is something that brings me happiness. but we are just getting started. I want to talk about one of the dishes where we say this is ours, this is our dish. I'm talking about manti. Although we call it by names like hinkal, henkel, or manti, Circassian manti, or Kayseri manti in our culinary culture, the homeland of manti is Asia. Manti, which is made with different names and different cooking techniques in regions like Turkestan, Uzbekistan, and Kazakhstan, is essentially a fusion dish for Turks. The truth is, the place where it was first made is China. Although red pepper is not used with yogurt or butter in the manti made in China, when manti entered Turkish culinary culture after it was filled with potatoes, minced meat, and similar products, when we consider the original in China, the manti in our culinary culture is much smaller and made with much more care, and we even give it importance so that, so to speak, 40 of them fit in a spoon, and we add yogurt from our own culinary culture and also from our winter preparations, a fusion that we carefully add on top of the yogurt with rich butter and vibrant red powdered pepper or chili flakes has truly made its mark on the world as Turkish manti in Turkish culinary culture. Yes, this dish, in this very form, is a Turkish dish. Although there are those who try to claim it, even if they present it with different structures, different sizes and different contents or different names, this dish has been a Turkish dish for thousands of years. The oldest known dish in world culinary cultures is helis, that is keskek. Keskek, which is also known as a feast dish in Anatolian culinary culture and Anatolian civilizations, has been made in many different ways in our history. I want to talk about the main ingredient of keskek, which is essentially wheat, although it was known as helis in distant history within Anatolian culinary cultures. It is still known as a wedding dish, a feast dish, a special dish in many different regions of Anatolia in our recent history. When we consider that there are 13 types of wheat in our history today, we see that the oldest wheat is Isa wheat, and it appears in our Anatolian lands. So, the lands where wheat, which is the fundamental raw material for nutrition, for making dough and for baking bread, was originally domesticated, where its remarkable diversity was carefully ensured, and where it was multiplied and cultivated, are in fact our very own lands. When I say our lands, I am specifically referring to Anatolia, and in Anatolia, the spices that provide the essential aroma for keshkek and some other traditional wheat-based dishes play an important role in shaping their unique flavor. Various types of meat and even the use of goose and duck in certain regions are all part of what we encounter. In Turkish culinary culture, borani, the favorite dish of Seljuk Sultan Boran Hatun, consists of various vegetables with yogurt, butter, and red pepper, specifically varieties where red pepper sautéed in clarified butter is added on top of the yogurt. So what are these? One of the oldest consumed vegetables in Anatolia is the broad bean. We see broad bean biryani, spinach biryani, and similar vegetables served with yogurt with garlic mixed in and topped with red pepper powder or flakes fried in clarified butter. And we see that because it was the favorite dish of Seljuk Sultan Boran Hatun, it entered Ottoman folk cuisine, Anatolian cuisine, and palace cuisine under that name. A cooking technique in Anatolian culinary cultures is the desert stone, or ashira. A heated stone placed next to the hearth is put inside the pot with the other ingredients, and then it's covered with some fire, embers, and ash placed on top of the lid to keep it warm, which we've observed as a unique cooking technique. This is a technique that has been added to the cooking methods in our Anatolian culinary cultures and has been recently rediscovered. In Seljuk cuisine during the reign of Alaaddin Keykubat, especially at Kubadabad Palace, we see a focus on nutritional balance and that what was eaten in the palace could also be eaten by the public, which wasn't difficult, showing that the people's economic status was particularly good. There aren't many major differences between the food eaten by the public and in the palace. We can see these differences later on during the Ottoman era. It's a fact that there were significant differences between what the palace and the public ate during various periods. During the Seljuk period, especially under Sultan Mesut, we see gold, silver, and copper coins featuring Byzantine details on one side and Seljuk information on the other. To help facilitate trade through these mutual agreements, the Seljuk currency was commonly used even in regions outside of Seljuk control, and it was even referred to as mangur at one point in time, particularly for the transfer of food supplies such as honey, molasses, and products like wheat, barley, and millet was important to enable their sale and trade across much larger areas on commercial routes. We know that one of these coins, which was used in these transactions, was referred to as the mangur. We also see that coins were minted together with Armenians in Adana Kozan. We see that the Seljuks and Armenians used the same system to mint coins, combining Armenian details on one side with information about the Seljuk Sultan on the other.